This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Time to talk with Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South, talking all things college football, some things college basketball. Connor, how are you doing today?
Gentlemen, doing well. I think I'm classy. I don't know that I'm classy in the way that many think that they are classy, but I think that I would pass any sort of classy test. And I don't think that means like I dress like it, but I think I handle myself in all situations like a classy person should.
Would we be having this conversation if it was a men's basketball game?
Let me say it in Spanish for you. No, absolutely not. There's no way. This whole discussion about the way that things played out down the stretch with Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and the debate that ensued afterwards from those like Heath Olbermann and Danny Cannell who criticized the way that she celebrated, it's nauseating. It's absolutely nauseating. No, we wouldn't be having this discussion if it were on the men's side. We'd see trash talk all the time. I mean, to think that like that crosses the line when think about it, like Matt, you've been in those spots before of like all the things that are said in a football scrum and that don't ever make airwaves. Oh my God, like come on, what are we doing here?
You don't want anybody to hear those things. And the thing is, if you talk trash, expect them to talk trash back. I don't have any problem. I mean, it's sports, man. It's a kid's game. Everybody's out there having fun and it's not like they were personal, which they do get that way sometimes, but man, you celebrate with your teammates.
I think it's funny, Connor. You go down some of the comment. You go on to some of the comments about this on social media and all that. Then go to these individual people's pages and look at the trash that they've talked throughout their entire lives. Not just sports, but politics, everything else. It's like, go ahead and look in the mirror if we're going to be criticizing Angel Reese, because it isn't just about what happens on a basketball floor.
And I think for those of us who think we know how we act in certain situations, we have no idea where we will be if we are about to win a national championship. I think that's the part that just gets so lost in the shuffle, is that we're sitting here on our couch on a Sunday afternoon watching sports, pretending like we know how we would handle ourselves and how my son or daughter would act in this situation. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Unless you have actually won a national championship and you have been in those closing moments and you've heard the things that have been said about you. And that's the issue that Angel Reese took with this entire situation. It's like I saw Caitlin Clark get like praised for talking trash. ESPN did an entire piece on the way that she was portrayed for her clapbacks, which is like a really interesting story. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But then like Angel Reese is like, look, I know I'm going to get vilified for doing the can't see me thing. And the fact that she kind of like followed her for 9 seconds. It's like, what are we really upset about? Or do we just like being upset? I think people just like being mad. And even when something so good happens, which that's what the Final Four was on the women's side this weekend. It was an awesome product to watch. They just feel the need to be mad about something. It's ridiculous.
I thought the biggest story was South Carolina getting beat. I really did. The way I was able to beat them and really the way that muddled defense they ran, where they're just leaving a shooter. You don't see that.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about disrespectful. How about Caitlin Clark just saying, no, I don't need to guard that person, and then just, like, throwing her hand over there and being like, I'll give her anything that's, like, outside of 8 feet. If she wants to take that shot, she absolutely can. But, man, it was incredible. Like, that's the type of thing that you watch with your family, and you're just sitting there like, it feels like we're watching something special with what Caitlin Clark is doing. I mean, obviously the comps are Steph Curry. Like, that is, I think the way that she is making shots is just so unique in a way that we haven't necessarily seen at the college level on the women's side.
Wouldn't even.
It's just.
Connor, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's incredible.
I was going to say even more Steve Nash than Steph Curry, because her vision, some of her passes, her wraparound bounce passes, the way she can, her floor, she's a willing passer. Not that Steph's not, but that Steve Nash, man, he could find a way to get it to you, and then he could shoot it from anywhere.
Yeah, and that's the part that I think is so likable. Is like, it's not just like she's a ball hog. You know, she distributes so well.
Yes.
That's the part of her game that, like, the more you watch it, you're like, she is something so special, and she's going to hopefully inspire an entire generation of kids who maybe aren't blessed with unbelievable size that in the way that we talk about with Steph Curry and what he has done, where some people feel like he's kind of ruined basketball because everybody thinks that they can shoot threes all the time. But at the same time, it's like, to inspire people to show you, hey, like if you spend enough time at your craft, this is what you're capable of. I think that is an awesome thing for sports.
When you make it tonight, Connor, UConn's the best team. That doesn't mean they're going to win. I just can't imagine that they lay an egg after playing near perfect basketball for the first 5 games of this tournament. I know San Diego State's got some size, so they might be able to give UConn with their big men a little more run for the money. But then you got to guard the outside. I mean, this is such a dangerous team right now, and they've got all kinds of mojo. And I just don't see San Diego State hanging for more than 30 minutes.
Yeah, I don't. Look, I came away from that Arkansas game thinking this UConn team is even better than I thought. And look, I was sitting there, predicting them to go to the Elite Eight, and my buddy who had them winning the national championship, I was like, geez, you're a little bit too high on UConn. And then you watch them play, you watch the balance that they have on offense, how unselfish they are, too. And they just always seem to get these high percentage looks. It is incredible to watch. It is tough to see a scenario in which San Diego State wins tonight, despite the fact that I've been banging the drum for them for a little while. Like, I came away from watching them in Orlando, and saying this is West Coast Tennessee. And they are so physical, but they're also old and they're super poised. I mean, you've seen in these last 3 games that they've had, they fall behind 9 against Alabama. They rally all the way back. They fall behind 7 against Creighton. They rally all the way back. They fall behind 14 against FAU, and they find a way to come back. So what does that knockout punch look like for UConn? Because all these games in the NCAA tournament have been blowouts. Will they get into a true 40-minute battle? Will we see them kind of push to the edge against the San Diego State team that, look, should be playing about as loose as anybody right now? Nobody's picking them to win tonight. I'm looking forward to it with the way that they guard and how efficient UConn has been offensively. I think it's going to be a tremendous matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And Sedona, he reminds me of a young Corliss Williamson. He gets you pinned, and his arm strength, and it starts down low, but, man, he's so physical. He just gets you on the other side. That being said, this will be the most physical team that UConn's played in this tournament.
Easily, yeah. I mean, I think if there's a knock on UConn and the teams that they face, you can kind of look up and down, and you're like, you know what? The physicality really hasn't been there quite yet, and that's not to knock on Arkansas. I think in past years they would have definitely presented that challenge, but even that Gonzaga team, like, that's not their MO. That's not what Mark Few is trying to do. This will be a different type of matchup, and that's kind of where San Diego State has thrived against 4 teams who rank in the top 20 nationally in three-pointers made per game. They've kind of stymied them, and FAU got going a little bit with the outside shot, but they still hit that point like midway through the second half where all of a sudden their offense is just so difficult because of the way that they guard. They're not going to make life easy on UConn. Of course, if they go up 20 or something like that, then we're like, all right, how much can this San Diego State comeback narrative really play out against a team this good? But yeah, it does feel like this is UConn's title to lose.
Matt, I got to ask you before I get into Connor about this. How do you feel about the championship and the Final Four being played in football stadiums when they've been playing in basketball arenas all year? Keep in mind now, this is a sport like the first month of the season. Some teams play on aircraft carriers, so maybe this is okay. How do you feel about it?
So I played a couple games in a dome. We played in the Georgia dome for the SEC tournament, but they sanctioned half of it off, or they blocked a little bit of it off, so it was kind of closed in a little bit.
Like the Carrier Dome. That's what they do at the Carrier Dome. It's what they used to do with the Alamo Dome for Spurs games.
I was surprised that they didn't do that, because you can't see. Really, if you're up there, that you can't see. You're there to enjoy the environment of it, but you can't see the court if you're all the way back there.
Well, they sell all the tickets out, so it's going to keep going this way. It's just, it feels weird that you play in smaller arenas, smaller gyms.
It's kind of like that hitter's eye feel. Like you want to kind of be able to see the rim, and like if it's clear out there, it's hard to get adjusted. But you got to have that hitter's eye that you see when you're in the batter's box.
But Connor O'Gara also has another point, which I think this is a salient point about why it's okay to play this Final Four in a football stadium.
I from a spectator standpoint, I love it when I'm sitting at home watching this. And yeah, I mean, every time somebody goes through a scoring drought in a game like this, they're like, see, this is what happens when you play at football stadiums. Like pretending like people don't go through scoring droughts in normal, regular gyms that they're used to playing in. But I think it's think it makes the sport look so much bigger. And I love that instantly when you turn on the TV and you kind of see the raised floor or stuff like that, you're like, oh, this is a big-time game that we're watching. I think it's so hard to manufacture that, and I think if there's kind of a knock on championships for other sports, you don't always get that sense. Even like College World Series, it's hard to go to a venue that's so unique, and obviously like they have such a great product in Omaha, and it's so cool to see, but it's something that becomes synonymous with a big event, a championship-level event that is hard to create in these other sports because football is like already as big as it can get. It's kind of cool that basketball takes it up a notch, and you're like, okay, now we're in the big time.
Connor, we've talked so much basketball. We've talked a little bit of baseball and everything. Do you even miss football yet?
I always miss football, man. You know I do. Look, let's be honest. I'm going to have it dialed up for the spring games this weekend. We've got Auburn getting into it. I'm trying not to set my expectations too high for what to expect from Robbie Ashford early on with Hugh Freeze. I don't know if he has any receivers that he can throw to yet, so I'm tempering my expectations of that. I always miss football, man. Like I'm going to be getting back to writing some football content this week. I was thinking about doing like, hey, if you've been watching the NCAA tournament and not really paying attention to football, here's what you missed. I'd mainly be doing that for myself, admittedly, though I do keep tabs on some of these, these camp storylines. But yeah, I mean, I miss football 365 days a year. I miss football even when we're in football season. That's how much I love it.
Connor, when did it change when these kids, the incoming freshmen, actually started showing up for spring ball? Because even just 20 years ago when I played, you didn't really have a lot of the kids come. You had them maybe getting there this summer, but not getting in there a semester early. When did that change?
I feel like that's changed in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And there are examples where it started a little bit earlier, but I don't know. I kind of feel like a little bit of like the rise of places like IMG Academy where, you go and obviously everybody kind of knows the deal. Like you're doing it because you want to play Division I football. And so you have the school schedule is a little bit more set up to be able to do that, to kind of like graduate early and do these different things. But yeah, I mean, I do feel like that has also been synonymous with coaches recognizing that freshmen can play right away. Not all can, some definitely can. And I think that our open understanding of that has changed this, and it's expedited that process of being like, hey, if I'm a blue chip recruit, like as great as it would be to have this baseball season and like go to prom with my buddies, I also can like go to my college's camp and I can get in their strength program. I think that's definitely been more of like a last 10 years type thing, but now like it feels more notable when these guys don't go, and that's what we end up talking about.
Connor, what's the name of that YouTube account, the guy that puts together consolidated games? I think he does it in spring ball too. You've told us about him on this show before.
It is Matthew Loves Ball. I don't know if he still has his rights on YouTube. I don't know how that works. I'm not tech savvy enough to really take into the weeds with that, but Matthew Loves Ball puts those condensed spring games out there. They're a great rewatch for like 20 minutes. You want to get through all of it and kind of trim the fat off of some of these games. It's a great resource that I love being able to use, especially since so many of these games, it's like you got to be streaming them or, whatever. It's not like you can just turn on ESPN and see any spring game unless it's Deion Sanders at Colorado.
It'd be a lot of fat to trim, like an entire side of a brisket if you're talking spring football games.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your college basketball betting this season. Get analysis of every play, prop, and point at BetOnline. You'll find the latest odds, bracket contests, team matchups, and game trends at BetOnline. Updated odds for everything from live games right through the Final Four and the championship game. BetOnline is where your college basketball headquarters are this season. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to sign up and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your bonus. That's BLEAV. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts.